prophecy of the cause. The sacking of Jerusalem and the world turning against Jerusalem and persecution of Jacob well into the Great Tribulation is a culmination of events that continues to boil over through the end times. And this will, by the prophecy, step by step, show how this unfolds. Now first, looking at the nations and how they turn on Jerusalem. In the prophecy, the sentiment against the Jews and their agendas from Jerusalem worldwide has spread through enough to where the nations of the world and the Antichrist sack Jerusalem, and that will make him be perceived as a hero to the world. And this is found in the sacking of the prophetic Babylon, Jerusalem the whore, when the nations agree to give Jerusalem, the Antichrist, their kingdoms for the power for the kingdom of the beast. Revelation chapter 17, verse 12 and 13 says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So what we see here is that they turn on Jerusalem and sack Jerusalem with the beast. Clearly there's going to be geopolitical turning on Jerusalem. That is definitely over the current events unfolding that you see with Israel and Palestine, annexing, the push of the third temple, snubbing their nose at the international leaders who are telling them what to do. This is exactly the same thing that occurred during 70 AD when they were sacked in Jerusalem, when they told Rome, no. What happened? They sacked Jerusalem. And this is the same thing that's going to happen again. Bar Kokhba's revolt will occur again. And that's what we're witnessing right now. And it's going to lead to the destruction of the people. Revelation chapter 17, verse 17 says, "For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, to agree to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God be fulfilled." Now, what is going on here? What is being fulfilled for God's will? Obviously, it's the sacking of Jerusalem. And that's what we see in the verse prior. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16 says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." So they sack Jerusalem. Okay? The nations giving over to the Antichrist Jerusalem and their power. And what we do end up seeing is we see a mushroom cloud going up when this occurs. Yeah. The sacking of Jerusalem. We see a mushroom cloud. It's in the prophecy. Revelation chapter 18, verse 17 and 18. "For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by the sea stood afar off. They cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like unto this great city?" What the people see here is we see a mushroom cloud going up so big that everybody can see it out from the sea. It's a big mushroom cloud. Believe that. It is not just some little missile that's being launched from Yemen. We're talking about a large-scale explosion. It's going to go up. And they're going to go, whoa. Luke chapter 21, verse 20 talks about the necessary need for people to flee and get out of there before the armies sack Jerusalem. "And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the day of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled." So we see the armies that are surrounding Jerusalem, the people flee, right? And what follows immediately after? Luke chapter 21, verse 24. "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled." Now check this out. Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now watch this. A couple verses prior, it says, "For these be the days of vengeance, that all things are written may be fulfilled." Now watch this. What is stated about the things being fulfilled? Read what it says in Revelation chapter 17, verse 17. "For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will," right? "And to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled." What words of God shall be fulfilled? That all things written may be fulfilled, right? And that the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. This is a portion to what is occurring in the times of the Gentiles being fulfilled. You see this in verse 24. That the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So we see that that's going to occur because it's going to be a fulfillment of the prophecy. And Jerusalem falling by the sword, and the Jews being led away captive into all nations, because Jerusalem has been taken over by the Gentiles. And what begins to occur is when the Gentiles sack Jerusalem, they're going to persecute Jews worldwide for what has been done and what transpired. Because when the Jews are sacked, they're going to launch tactical missiles globally on all the nations and the beast and the kings of the earth, and they're going to turn on her for that. And they're going to start rounding up Jews worldwide because they launched tactical missiles from submarines on all the nations. That is the first trumpet. Revelation chapter 8 verse 7 says, "The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and a third part of the trees was burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." And because of this global nuclear strike on the nations that provoke further to target Jews worldwide, Satan's then thrown down by the third trumpet and begins to persecute Jews more. And during that period, this is when we end up seeing fulfillment of things, where Revelation chapter 8 verse 4 through 6 talks about the blood in the fountains. "And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, where they became blood. And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shalt be, because thou hast judged this. For they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy." So this is the time of the great tribulation. Okay, this is the last 42 months. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 21 talks about this. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, never shall be." Now mind this, the same thing it says that the roundup in the blood of the Jews in the fountains, okay, and giving them blood to drink, that it's just because they've killed and shed the blood of the prophets and the saints. Who was responsible for killing the blood of the saints and the prophets? It was the Jews. Matthew chapter 23 clearly states that, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, on you shall come all the blood, righteous blood of the earth," from Abel to Zechariah, right? That on you all the righteous blood of the earth shall come. And we also see that mentioned, okay, in Revelation chapter 18, verse 18, about the sacking of Jerusalem, okay, before the launches of the nuclear missiles, where it says, "And in her," in verse 24, 18:24, it says, "And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth." In who? In Jerusalem. And then in verse 20 it says, "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her." On who? On Jerusalem, over the blood of the saints. And that's the same thing that is stated for the judgment in Revelation chapter 8, verse 6, where it says, "For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy." And so the provocation of the unbelieving Jews at the third temple, creating that controversy, brings that 42 months of sacking of Jerusalem, which is seen in Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 and 2, where it says, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall tread underfoot 42 months. And this is the same 42 months that is mentioned about the beast taking Jerusalem in Revelation chapter 13, verse 5, where it says he will continue for 42 months. And then in verse 7, it says that for he's been given power over all kindreds, nations, and languages and tongues. And this is a portion of the Great Tribulation in which the Jews will be persecuted worldwide, fulfilling Luke 21, verse 24. And this is the prophecy for all of the controversy that has occurred over Jerusalem in its sacking, and then the last 42 months of the Great Tribulation period, where the woman is out in the wilderness, protected, exodused out, as it says in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 6, that the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there for 1,260 days. This is the portion of that same 42 months in which everybody will flee and go into the wilderness, and Jerusalem will be sacked, and then the rest of the Jews worldwide will be persecuted over this controversy of the third temple, over the snubbing their nose at the kings of the earth, and the provocation that occurs after they've been sacked by launching missiles on them all and the kings of the earth. And this brings about the Great Tribulation that has never been seen before on the earth. And this is the prophecy of the cause.